a very natural progression here into another aspect of the chakras that you are pointing to, which is nature and interrelatedness. You've brought this up several times, our interrelatedness. And we find that this is clearly articulated in the chakra system and in the system of the Dantian also. And this is something that I have found quite amazing to see these images, these old drawings, these old paintings, classical diagrams, and to realize that they're actually telling us something about the nature of our relationship to the earth and to the elements and to the cosmos. So one of the things that we see in common with the old system of the Dantian and the chakra system, okay, even the contemporary system, is that the centers of the body are correlated with the elements of the earth. Okay, and so if we look at the old diagram, say, of the Neijing 2, okay, the inner landscape, the Neijing 2, the inner landscape diagram, it shows the human body as a landscape. It shows that in the lower part of the body, there is a farm, it's soil, and then there is water running. And then there is the practice of cultivating that so that the water is lifted up into the fire element, which then lifts it up further and vaporizes it into the air element, okay, which then vaporizes out into the space element. Now, that is clearly defined in those old Taoist landscape drawings, but that's also exactly what's defined in the chakra system also, is that first chakra associated with earth element, second chakra with water, third chakra with fire, and so forth. But then where we find the real implications of that, okay, it's pretty obvious at first. Okay, well, the body is made of earth. Okay, it's made of water. I mean, every time we drink some tea, you know, we're drinking rainwater and spring water, and it's been around forever. It's the same element as what's on the moon, you know? So there's a biological unity that we are being told about. These teachings are saying we are made of these elements in this container. But the place that I have found that this is most clearly articulated in a very symbolic way, and something that is not really translated into contemporary chakra thinking, but it was very clearly understood in the older systems. And that is that in these chakra depictions, in the old, excuse me, in the old iconography of the chakras, especially in the Hindu system, but also in the Buddhist system, the chakras are the residence of deities. And there is either one deity or sometimes a whole mandala of deities. So what I have come to appreciate about this is that these depictions of the chakras and these depictions of the inner landscape are actually telling us that God lives inside of us. Or if we don't want to say God, we can say that the biospheric intelligence lives inside of us that was always deified. So for example, first chakra is always in Hindu Tantra, we always find Ganesh is living there. All right, well, obviously, you know, not everybody in the world has an elephant in their first chakra because they're not all, you know, Hindu tantrics, but what is universal. There is this association with the root of the spine being that which is keeping the Kundalini bound to the earth, keeping our consciousness bound to the earth, and therefore Ganesh is said to be the foundation of existence. The earth is said to be the foundation of existence. And therefore, if we look at a chakra depiction and we see a Hindu deity living there, what it is telling us is that the intelligence of the earth lives in the body, and it has these kinds of powers. And therefore, we go all the way through this. And one, for example, the third chakra, the chakra of fire, okay, closely associated with the transmutation of the dantians, okay. But the third chakra, the solar plexus area, closely connected to metabolism, digestion, and digestive fire is a fundamental aspect of all classical Asian medical systems, digestive fire. And that is called Agni in Ayurveda, and Agni is said to reside as a deity in the third chakra. Now, to me, this is really profound because Agni is the sun. And so what that is telling us, okay, and we see this also in the fire element of the lower Dantian depictions, what it's telling us is we're made out of sunlight. And not only are we made out of sunlight, but it is that which is giving us our, body temperature constantly. It is constantly combusting inside of us. And so what that's telling us is that the cosmological intelligence that created the earth and the biosphere, and the intelligence of the biosphere that created organisms and created our life, those are aspects that live inside of us. And so therefore we can say that the chakra system and the Dantian system also is a way to understand that God lives inside of us, that the deities live inside of us, that the deities are symbolic representations of the powers of nature. And this is where we find the correlation between the outer rituals, worship, and the gods and goddesses of different cultures, the deities of different cultures, and the internal counterpart. So in the Vedic tradition, the primary practice is giving offerings to the fire. But that's an internal practice also that we do every time we eat. Okay, every time we eat, we are feeding Agni. And therefore, every physiological process is divine in nature or cosmological in nature. So that's something that I have come to appreciate about the iconography of the chakras.
I think that's beautiful. You explain it so well, David. And, it's you make the esoteric very grounded because people can't always get that connection that is already within them because they are a little, or we can be, I'm not saying it's us versus them, but there can be a disconnection from the elements that actually feed us because we are also at times very disconnected from ourselves. And that's when what we call chi deviations or the centers are not in alignment. The dantians are, one of the dantians can be out of alignment, which affects the other ones. And so if we don't eat well, for instance, that's the earth that we are taking in. And if we don't eat well and naturally, and we don't reconnect with the elements because everything may have been chemicalized or processed, then we lose connection with that inner being. And that's where the dangers are, I feel, that if we don't notice it, we're not aware, we don't have consciousness around it, sometimes it's just coming back to that simplicity. And what happens, how do the deities, outside or inside, talk to us? They will throw in a little chaos in your body and say, hey, pay attention. It's like, oh, you didn't pay attention, you didn't hear that one, I better make it louder. And all of a sudden you're paying attention because you're not feeling well. And so it's drawing our attention to restructure our intention to see what we can do to help ourselves. I have a question about the deities. Is there an emotional significance to each of the deities in each chakra?
Of course, absolutely. And that's where there is a clear association between the classical tantric depictions of the deities in the chakras and the contemporary biopsychology.
Okay.